Hello, and welcome to Thingness.
This podcast is one part of our domestic micro-gallery. In each of these podcasts, we sit down with our current exhibitor and talk about objects, things, and collecting in relation to exhibiting outside of white cube norms. We are Hannah
And Martin, and today we are joined by Mia Robsahm. Mia, would you like to introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your art practice?
Yes, so my name is Mia Robsahm. I'm from Norway, born in Oslo, but I've lived a bit all over the place in Norway. My art practice includes other people in terms of me wanting to have that it's, what is it called? Interactive. And also usually performative. So I've done interventions with, for instance, the sausage stand and with the nail salon. So in that sense, out of the white cube norm, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
And you're currently based in Bergen,
Yes.
where we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we want to start off each episode by asking our, invited guests to describe their relationships to things, objects, and collecting. So, what would you say your relationship is to these?
Yeah, I think my relationship to things and collecting are kind of a hate-love relationship. I lived with my mom, and she was a borderline hoarder, I would say. So that maybe formed me into a person that don't want to have a
You
lot
have
of
like
things.
an aversion to it.
Yeah, a kind of an aversion to it, that I don't want to have a lot of things. Also, I have moved a lot, as I mentioned, that I've lived many places in.
Because you've also lived
Norway.
abroad as well.
Yeah, also abroad. So I've kept my things at a low level of in quantity, but also I love things. I love things that are sparkly, colorful, things that don't have any use. So in my own collecting, I have collected like these cows that you can have milk in and pour the milk from their mouth. And at one point I had like 5 of those, I think.
Wow.
And I even got some for gifts. But then I realized, no, I'm a minimalist, and I gave away all of them except for one that I still have. But also I think my relationship to things stems more back to my childhood, because I remember when I was in my friend group of girls in preschool, or when you're a child.
Yes, like kindergarten level.
Yeah, like after kindergarten. We had this stick we found that were our little guy that we kept, and I kept it for one day, and then I gave it to my friend, and the third and the fourth friend, we just moved this stick around between us, and it had a name as well. I don't remember the name, but we made this whole lore around this stick man. And I think that was my associations to things when you talked about your gallery, Thingness. More those things that almost gets a life of its own, and have a story around it, as you do in childhood, basically.
Wow, amazing. It makes me think, when you're saying about like the stick passing it around, it almost makes me think of like those. I know that some schools had these like school animal like pets, and then like someone would each take it home at a weekend or something. I didn't have that, but I know that other people. Yeah, like you'd get like a school hamster or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's funny to think that instead of that, you actually just had a stick
Yeah.
But like you gave the stick so much importance and like life.
Imagine being the one losing the stick.
Yeah. Do you remember what happened to the stick?
I don't remember. I think we just grew up, or maybe I moved from the place, and then
The stick just got
the
left.
stick, yeah. I hope it's somewhere still, but yeah.
Well, how about we move on then to describing, we've just spent the last couple hours putting all of your wonderful little things and objects in the shelf. Would you like to maybe kind of start describing some of the things, or kind of like your process to picking, creating what you were going to bring along today?
Yeah, I think the gallery in itself, which is the shelf, in Norwegian it's called settekasse. And it's for me it's kind of a nostalgic object, because I remember my mom had one of these when I was a child, and I think a lot of other families also had these. If you're born like me, 80, almost 9, like
80s, 90s.
80s, 90s, then you still remember this. And I guess before that it was even more of those around, but now I feel like it's more of a object you don't see that much, at least in people's houses. But I feel like it was a big thing when I was a child. And I just thought about like, what's the use of this shelf, because it's so small. So the things you have in it is like, it's small trinkets or small things that don't have any usage other than to look at it. And also the shelf reminds me of this doll houses, just because of the size of it. So I got a nostalgic feeling just by the gallery or the shelf. And so some of the things I have in the shelf is, I think 2 or 3 things are things that would be in this kind of shelf.
Like a traditional one of those.
Yeah, like this kind of, this dog, for instance, or what is it called?
The poodle.
Yeah, the poodle is made for that shelf kind of, or was what was in those shelves.
I mean, you said you got something, was it in Barcelona?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like maybe sometimes like you would go on vacation and you would buy this like lacquered or varnished seashell or like conch thing, and you would put that in the shell.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually bought one of those that didn't make the cut to go in the shelf, like this Lanzarote.
The little house.
The little house with Lanzarote on it, and I found it in a second-hand store, and I actually took it because I was in Lanzarote when I was a child, and I think just the shelf and the small things in it, it has for me a lot to do with childhood and memories and nostalgia in a way, and being a child, since it was big when I was a child, I guess. And also like a grandma, or not my grandma, but elderly people.
Like the kind of thought of a grandma.
Yeah, the thought of a grandma, I think.
I think it's nice you're saying that it's very much connected to memories, because even, I mean, it's very exciting. It's just the first artist we've got, and it feels like this project is, has come to its beginning in a way. But so then for you to arrive today with all of these little things, and I like the word trinkets that you use. I think that applies very well to this. But and already want to ask you about where all these things are from. So then, in a sense, there's already wanting to know your memories or like your connections to these objects. Is this something you've had for a long time? Is this something that you just found yesterday? So already, as kind of like a viewer to your objects being put in, there was this, for me at least, this connection of like a desire to want to connect to the memories.
And I mean, when you came and you brought most of them in this cake tin.
Yeah.
And is it like did you put up like half maybe? Oh.
Pardon?
Was it like maybe half of the objects that you put up?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I had like excessive amount of things.
It was quite nice though. I think in a way it really relates then to how you might approach a gallery. You know, coming to a normal gallery, you can normally come with some works and you curate it. It was really interesting to see that even though this is just such a small, I mean it's a micro gallery, that it was still something that was curated here on the spot.
Yeah, definitely. And all the objects are found things, almost all of them, and I guess that was also a part of the process, that I like the idea of that being the process towards the exhibition, to find all these things on the ground. And I also remember, I think I wrote down on my notes or something, just this that I felt this collecting of things was kind of bringing me back to childhood, and how that was normal before, for me at least, or for every child, I suppose. But
this collecting box then disappearing from, normal homes, is that something that is like maybe like changed with how homes are portrayed?
Yeah.
Maybe like both in media, or maybe just like the IKEA catalog,
What you mean, like this very kind of clean white in a way?
The move towards like minimalism, or shabby chic, or like whatever, so.
Because I guess the whole point of a shelf like this is something that you want to fill, so it's something that is lots of things.
Maybe nowadays maybe you still have the objects, but you put them in a box.
In a cupboard.
In a cupboard, yeah.
Yeah.
or in a drawer, yeah.
Yeah, or even give it away, because it's not part maybe of the style anymore. And also maybe we're not that nostalgic towards objects anymore in the same way. I guess we travel a lot more, so to have this little house from Lanzarote is not like, doesn't have
not as special, yeah. But I was also thinking about, you were talking about your pouring cow things, and how, you can be collecting things, but having like a framework for yourself. Say you limit yourselves to 5 things, and if you want a new thing, you have to pick one of the 5 to get rid of as well. I think a lot of people who collect very expensive art maybe do it like that. They I can only have 5 paintings, but so if I want a new painting, I have to sell one of the other ones.
Yeah, maybe like the amount of space on your walls. I'm always going to have art on my wall, but I'm only going to own what I can have on my wall.
Yeah.
Should we speak a little bit more about some of the things that are actually in the shelf? I was really curious. I really enjoyed your story of, there's this little one that you filled with this kind of fluff.
Yeah, it's because thinking of this project, I've, I guess, looked more for things to collect, and this this fluff is from my workplace. So where you take the, what is it called?
Like the paper towels.
Yeah, the paper towels. When you open it to refill paper towels inside the box, you get this fluff on the inside that is very it's like a sky. It looks like the sky in physical form. And I realized that I look at these things and like them, but I don't have any place to. I didn't have like a shelf to put this nice fluff until now, and I guess that was very enjoyable about this, to be able to collect these things that I
you enjoy.
I enjoy, and I think a lot of artists do, these things that is considered crazy to talk about maybe with other people. Like, oh, can you look at this fluff? And if I said it to my co-workers, they would be like, huh?
It's just fluff.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing about being an artist, that you meet other people that can have the same like wow, like feeling of wow, that fluff was very nice fluff, without feeling.
It's like a different outlook, because in a way to someone else they'd just be like, but that's just the fluff from the paper towel. But maybe to us we're like, wow, look at it in like its material form, or like, or think about the way that it was created.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah, or even if they can't like sort of get on the same page with like your specific fascination with the fluff,
Yeah.
they can at least relate to the obsession of something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you also have in the shelf this little pile of, it was like gravel or dirt from work as well. So again, this thing, I guess, that in a way you wouldn't have maybe bothered to pick up otherwise.
I guess not, but I would I think I feel, or during this process of collecting these things, I realized how much I look at these things, or that I've seen them before I started to collect them as well, but I don't do anything about seeing them other than appreciate it in the moment, which is very nice, I guess, also.
Like the majority of these things in the shelf, they have this like modeling clay element to them.
Yeah.
Could you talk maybe a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think because I use air-dried clay, which is kind of maybe a sin also in the art world, because it's not clay real clay. But I thought I just wanted to have like a red thread within the things, so almost all the objects have some of this air clay connected to them in one way or another.
We very much like kind of joins them visually.
Yeah. And have this to, for instance, I have some small stones and some small glass, and I wanted to like put them higher up and make you see it more.
Little pedestals.
Yeah, you were saying like, for instance, like the gummy bear, you like, and that you wanted these things to be up on a pedestal, almost like how it would be in a gallery.
Yeah. And to just make it more visible to the audience, or to the people that will see the shelf, or to just people in general, I guess. Just because they're so neat objects in themselves, on the ground or the places I found them.
I guess it's kind of showing it off more, you know. If one of my favorite ones that you've done is this feather, which is very, very lightly balanced on one of these pedestals. So, you know, if one of us were to walk too fast by the shelf, it would blow away. But I think it's, you know, as soon as you include like a pedestal or, you know, a plinth in a way, it's kind of showing off like, look at this object. Like I have decided to put this here for you to see. It's kind of like highlighting it.
Yeah. It's actually one more thing I haven't shown you yet, but I have this thing, which is
it's like a reading magnifying glass. You
Yeah,
put it flat on a book to make the letters bigger.
Yeah, it looks like that. It is something else, but it is also something I've found, and you can use it to look at the objects. And I've tried it, and it really makes all the details. It's easier for you to see the details, and I think it suits the shelf in its smallness, and also this kind of going back in time to when these shelves were in, or when we actually had those shelves in our homes, because also this magnifying glass also reminds me of something nostalgic, something that has to do with a grandpa or a grandma, and a slower time maybe.
But also with collecting, I guess, you know, you would, if you're collecting small things and you want to, what is it I'm thinking of? Like one of the things you have in the shelf actually has butterfly wings in it, and I'm thinking then back to like insects, you know, and people collecting these that you would use a magnifying glass to study like the details within them even further.
I mean, this is the very origin of collecting, I think, in the Western world. Like, the naturalists endeavor to find all the different insects, and put them in a box and a little pin.
Yeah. And I find that is something grotesque about it as well. So sometimes that kind of shelf also reminds me of more this, collecting all this, even like in the
Natural History Museum.
Yeah, that kind of feel to it, to have all these dead animals and dead insects, like piled, like not piled, but like.
It's almost a little bit like a bit of a show off to that. Like the cultural, like the history of that country in a way, like look what we are able to collect, like look at the amount of things like that we have been able to bring together.
It's a little bit, I think, if you look back at it from now, more than anything, it's just like mankind's need to impose its own system of order on like the chaos of nature.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like maybe there's another order to nature, but it has to be our version of that that's on display. Because some things in nature that look the same are actually quite different. They're just like evolved to the same point. Which is quite fun.
And also I think art sometimes feels like that when I go into an art museum and there are objects on these plinths or this pedestal. It's kind of, sometimes I get a bit like out of myself experience and like, this is so weird to go into this white place and it's like an object on this white thing, and outside in nature it's just
there.
And it's so much like fantastic things in the nature. I don't know how to describe it, but sometimes it's quite absurd to enter a gallery space.
I mean, there are some animals that like do the same.
That's true.
I know there's like this like bird of paradise or whatever. It's just like in the jungle.
Blue things.
That one like collects blue things.
Yeah, and put it in a specific order and
Yeah, they want to create like a mating space in a way, like a show-off space. Like, look at this beautiful like space
nature's
I've collected. There was something that you were saying about this strange thing of like going into a gallery and seeing something there when it could be outside, and then it brought me back to some of the things that you've put in, and also this thing that you were saying that, in the process of working towards this exhibition, that you've started to think about the things that you see that you wouldn't have used but now you are using. And I kind of wonder now, after this exhibition, whether it will affect the way that you then walk around and look at things. Like, okay, well, you might be out in nature and look at something and be like, wow, that's really beautiful. Is there something I could do with it, or is it enough just to see it here? Like, do you think you will continue to collect some of these things that you have started to collect? And where do you see that kind of going, if so?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because I have the urge to collect all the time in a way, but I usually do it by the camera. I think, like collect footage of things, but then again, as I said in the beginning, that I have like a love-hate relationship to objects and to collect them. I get like that also with, even though it's footage or
do you delete them?
Yeah, I at the point I delete them, so it's kind of, that's also why I want to work with performance, I guess, because then you can like showcase something, or because I'm quite inspired by performances by people that usually use the nature as the scene for the performance or as an element with the performance. For instance, Tore Vrålnes and Lisa Lee, then it's so nice because then you do the performance and show within that environment, with these objects that are in the nature, for instance, or at that specific spot, and then you leave and then you don't have anything with you. And that's kind of appealing to me.
This kind of like ephemeral, creating an environment and like a space for something to happen that is like an ephemeral, almost like an ephemeral scene in a way, and I mean like a theatre scene.
Yeah, and you perhaps can show those things, like for instance, I can be very inspired by construction sites for some reason, because then objects are put in a different way than they usually are, and maybe the lights are perfect in the evenings, and then there's some construction lights or something, and I could film that and then have like that as an object, this film snippet, or I could like take stuff from the construction site, and then I have objects and maybe reconstruct or take some pebbles or some things that are there, but then I have the stuff and the things. So
or I guess you can bring people there.
Yeah,
so that's the final thing you were going to say.
Yeah, so bringing people there would be like the ultimate.
And like highlighting the things that you've noticed, like highlighting these small elements that have like taken your interest, taken your awareness in a way. This was a nice lead on then to, because you mentioned to the performance artists that you really that inspire you, and this is maybe a nice lead on then to ask if you have any references that you might like to add to our Thingness bibliography.
Yeah. I have one artist based in Bergen actually. She's called Mette Sandfær. She's a Danish artist which did her masters here, and I'm just very fascinated about how she makes exhibitions, because she uses found objects. Maybe she buys some of them, but usually it's like objects that she puts together in a certain way, and a lot of things she usually fill a room, not maximalistic, but yeah, you can get some pictures, I guess. Google her and see it, and I think maybe what I did in the shelf is a bit inspired just by her and her way of making exhibitions. And then I think I'm very inspired by just a popular culture and Disney movies and plastic objects. Some of the things in my shelf is quite like pink and glittery, and that's also some of my inspirations.
Like maybe bordering on like the kind of kitsch side of things?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like I'm thinking about this, not that it's kitsch, but like this wonderful little green dinosaur that we've got in it.
Yeah.
And the poodle.
Yeah, and I have some pink ears.
Yes, ears? The shiny ears, the little pink bow as well.
Yeah.
You know, even this kind of relation to clothing and costume.
Yeah, and all of it are like found on the ground, but it's when I see those things, even not preparing for an exhibition, I'm tempted by taking them, because they're just shiny and pink. And
was the gummy bear found on the ground?
Yes.
Really?
It was, and actually there are more candy as well, which also ties into this child's element, I guess, because the big ball, you can see it there with many.
The one that kind of looks like a shell in a way.
Yeah, that's like a infinity.
A jawbreaker sort of thing.
A jawbreaker that I have carved with my tongue myself.
Wow.
I didn't say that, but it has kind of the same feel to the clay, so it almost looks like it's the clay, but
it looks like it's worn down like very naturally, like the sea, which I guess is kind of what you like the same way with the saliva in your mouth.
Yeah.
The other sweet thing you've got is this sugar glass kind of structure.
Yeah, which is that's not a found but a gifted lollipop we got for Pride, me and my girlfriend, and I just melted it in the
on the stove.
On the stove, yeah.
Wow, nice. Well, Mia, this has been wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for speaking with us today. Does anybody have anything that they want to add, or?
No, I don't think so.
Thank you so much for coming. It was very fun.
And we're very excited to have you in the shelf. So it will be up for a few weeks. Keep your eyes on social media for little updates and stories. And thank you for listening.
Yeah.
This was Thingness.